Tokyo, the second week of March. The cherry blossoms came in early this year. The trains run every 4 minutes. The Shibuya Scramble takes the same 6,000 people across in a wave at the same 5 minutes past every hour. The Family Mart on the corner of Yotsuya and Sotobori Avenue is, as always, open. On the corner opposite the Family Mart, there is a vending machine that has, since 1987, never been out of order. The trains run, the vending machine sells, the store is open. A small civilization, quiet and well-kept, that does not know it is, in another sense, already over. It is not the second week of March anymore. It is the third. Asahi Kurose has been asleep on the tile floor of that Family Mart behind the register for 11 days. He is wearing the apron he forgot to take off on his last shift. The fluorescent lights are still on. The freezer hums. The shelves have been picked clean of canned goods and energy drinks. And the magazine rack has the same front page from 12 days ago, which still has not been updated, which is no longer waiting to be updated. He wakes the way he has woken every morning since the first day. Slowly, with the small, automatic surprise of being still alive, he sits up. He drinks half a bottle of warm water. He puts on his glasses, the ones with the long crack across the left lens, and he ties his sneakers, and he stands in the doorway of the store for a full minute before he goes outside, listening. Yotsuya is quiet. It has been quiet for 9 days. He takes his bicycle from where he left it leaning against the ATM. He pedals out into the street. The light is gray. The blossoms are falling. There is no one on the street except 2 blocks down, a man in a half-buttoned coat, walking the way the dead walk now. Too slowly, leading with the head, listening for something always just out of reach. Asahi has learned to stay clear of the slow ones. He does not know what to call the others. The wheels of his bicycle make a small wet sound on the pedals. The man hears it. The man turns. Asahi pedals harder. The man, what was once a man, moves first slowly, then faster, then on all fours. His hands hit the asphalt. His mouth opens. He runs without making sound. The Yotsuya station is 60 meters ahead. The gates are open. They have been open since the morning when the staff stopped coming. Asahi rides through them, drops the bicycle, vaults the turnstile, and is on the platform before the dead man rounds the corner. He flattens himself against the rail of the elevated platform, behind a vending machine, and he waits. The dead man comes in. The dead man stops at the turnstile, looks left, looks right, lifts his head. After a long moment, he turns, and he walks back out into the street. The Yamanote line 4 nights ago stopped running. The timetables are still scrolling, green letters telling no one when the next train isn't coming. Asahi watches the letters. His breath returns to him slowly. And then, far down the line, where the rails curve toward Shinjuku, there is movement. Not 1 figure, not 2. He counts them. 6, 7, 12. They are walking in a column. They are walking in step. They are not coming toward him, they are going somewhere. He cannot hear it from this far, but the wind shifts briefly, and there is a sound on it. A low, even sound, like men chanting at a temple, except the syllables are wrong. Asahi has lived next to a temple all his life. He knows what the chants sound like. These syllables are reversed. He waits. The column passes. The sound fades. He is alone on the platform for a long time before he moves. He has heard the chant before, twice in the past week, both times from a great distance. He has, both times, told himself it was the sound of trains. He cannot tell himself this anymore. He sits on the platform for 15 minutes after the column has passed. He counts in his head, the way his grandmother taught him when he was 9, to count down panic, backward from 100 in 2s. He gets to 30. He stands up. The platform is empty. The wind moves the timetable scroll 1 frame. The green letters change. The next train, according to the green letters, is in 3 minutes. Asahi watches the 3 minutes pass. He goes home because there is nowhere else to go yet. Asahi's apartment is on the 4th floor of an unremarkable building 2 streets over. The elevator does not work. He climbs. The door is the way he left it on day 1, and the inside of the apartment is the way she left it on day 1. Because she did not leave on day 1. She had been in bed for 2 months by then, and on day 1 he was at work, and on day 2 he came home and she was not in bed anymore and not in the apartment anymore. He has not asked himself since where she went. His grandmother's name was Sadako. She was 81. She had been raising him since he was 5 when his mother, her daughter, left for what was to be a 6-month posting in Munich, and what was, for reasons Sadako did not explain to him, the rest of her life. Sadako washed his school uniforms by hand because she did not trust the laundry machine. She folded the blankets the same way every day. She had a small radio on the kitchen counter, tuned permanently to NHK News, and the radio is still on, and the news is still being read, by no one, into an empty kitchen. She had a habit of leaving the apartment door unlocked when she expected him home from a late shift. She had been doing this for 2 years. She had been doing it on the night of day 1. Asahi had not gone home that night because day 1 was a Tuesday, and on Tuesdays he stayed late at the store. He has thought about this exactly once. He has not thought about it again. Her glasses are still on the nightstand. Her bed sheets are still half folded back. On the small table by the bed, there is a cassette tape recorder, a thing she kept for letters to her sister in Sendai, who died 9 years ago. It is loaded with a tape. The play button has been pressed halfway in. Asahi does not press it the rest of the way. He sits on the edge of the bed for what feels like a few minutes, and is, when he checks his watch, an hour. Then he goes into the kitchen. He opens the rice cooker. He eats cold rice with a spoon, standing up, looking out the window at the falling blossoms. In the morning of what he is fairly sure is day 13, he has lost 2 days somewhere. He pedals south. He has heard from the only other survivor he saw in the first week, a man in a blue raincoat who is now also gone, that the bridges to the mainland are still standing. The man was wrong, or the man was lying. Suidobashi is in the river. The expansion joints have been blown out, the concrete is cracked end to end, and the section over the deepest channel is missing entirely, and the parts of it that have not gone into the river are leaning against the parts that have. There is no crossing here. From the embankment, looking west, he can see the lower half of the Rainbow Bridge, what is left of it, which is not enough. Tokyo is an island. He has not properly thought of it that way until now. From the embankment, he can also see, in the gray distance, the orange girders of Tokyo Tower. The lights are off. They have been off for 12 days. There used to be a small red light at the top, blinking for aircraft, even when the rest of the tower went dark for energy-saving hours. The small red light is also off. Everything that needed power is off. Everything that needed people is gone. Everything that did not is still doing what it does. He turns the bicycle around. He goes home. That evening, on the rooftop of his own building, he had gone up only because the apartment had begun to feel sealed. He sees a figure on the next building over. It is sitting on a ventilation hood, eating cold ramen straight from the cup with a serving fork. The figure looks up. The figure waves. Asahi does not believe what he is seeing for several seconds. The figure is wearing a navy courier jacket. The figure has copper red hair and freckles and an easy half smile that has, until this moment, only ever existed in a context where the world was not over. Quote 0 says, Ren Tachibana, across the gap. Quote 1, Asahi sits down on the gravel of his own rooftop. He does not for a minute trust his throat to speak. They have known each other since the first year of high school. Ren was the boy in the back row who could draw a perfect circle freehand. Asahi was the boy who corrected the math teacher exactly once, in the second semester, on a problem the teacher had genuinely gotten wrong. They had been since then the kind of friends who go for ramen on Tuesdays without arranging it in advance. They had not seen each other for 9 days before this rooftop. Ren had somehow lost no weight. Asahi notes this, sitting across from him on the gravel, sharing the cup. Ren had also somehow kept the same easy shoulders. The world has ended, and the boy who can draw a perfect circle freehand looks exactly the same. Asahi is grateful beyond the available words for it. It takes them 20 minutes to find a way to cross. A service ladder, a plank from a construction site, a careful bridge between two equally tired men. They sit on Asahi's rooftop together. Ren shares the ramen. He lived in his courier company's locker room for 4 days, he says, and there had been enough vending machines in there to keep him going. He did not come out for the first 2 days because of the noise. Quote 2, quote 3, Asahi does not, yet, In the morning, they sit on the tar paper of the rooftop and draw Tokyo in chalk. Ren is the better cartographer. He knows the city the way couriers know cities, by service alleys and back stairs, by which gates lock and which do not, by which rooftops connect, Ren says. Asahi, who has crossed the Shibuya Scramble 5 times a week for 2 years to get to a university he no longer attends, does not want to go to Shibuya. He says so. Ren, who delivered packages there 4 times a day for 5 years, agrees that he does not want to go to Shibuya either. They go anyway. It takes them a day to plan the route. They sleep in shifts. Ren tells one bad joke that almost works, and Asahi laughs once. A small, dry laugh, the kind he thought he had forgotten how to make. Ren notes this without remarking on it. They are halfway across the Yotsuya Station underpass when the dead man finds them. He has been waiting in the stairwell. There is no warning, no chant, no smell. There is only the body coming sideways out of the dark, and Ren going down underneath it with a sound Asahi has never heard him make, and Asahi swinging the metal baseball bat he has been carrying since day 4, and connecting again, and the thing not getting up. His arms are shaking, the bat is bent. There is something in the corner of his vision that he registers without naming, a glow that was not there before, faint pale cyan, in the air above his friend. He files it. He throws up against the tile wall. Ren is on his knees, breathing hard, alive. He looks up. There is a glyph above Ren's head. A vertical bar, slightly transparent. A pale cyan color that does not light the wall behind it, with a kanji floating above the bar. The character for hope, which he was once made to copy 100 times in 3rd grade calligraphy class, and a number under the kanji in a thin geometric typeface. The number reads 71. Asahi stares at it. Ren turns his head, follows Asahi's eyes, sees nothing. Asahi reaches a hand up toward the glyph, and his fingers pass through it, and the glyph does not flicker. The number does not change. He looks at his own hand. The space above his own hand is empty. Quote 11, quote 12, Asahi says, quote 13. Back on the rooftop, in the dark, with one candle, they try to work out what it is. Ren raises his arms. The number does not move. Ren makes faces. The number does not move. Ren says the words, I am alive, I am alive, I am alive, and the number does not move. Asahi describes the glyph in detail. Ren listens. Ren chews the inside of his cheek and says, quote 14, quote 15, quote 16, quote 17, quote 18. They stare at each other across the candle. Ren shrugs finally and lies back on the tar paper and looks at the sky and says, quote 19. Asahi looks at the gauge. It does not move. Then it does. By one, by another. It settles at 73 and stays. They sleep in the pharmacy basement on day 14 because the pharmacy basement has antibiotics, and Ren has cut his hand on something in the underpass that has begun to look angry. They go down the basement stairs together with the candle, and Ren says, fairly calmly, there is, sitting on the concrete floor, with her back against the metal shelving, with a kitchen knife in her right hand and her left index finger held away from her body like a thing that does not belong to her. Her name, when she speaks, is Yuna Mikami, and she is 22 years old, and she is a third-year medical student at the university Asahi used to attend, and the dead man who bit her finger is back upstairs, and she has perhaps 7 minutes before she has to do something about it. The number above her head reads 41. She does it herself. Yuna has them stand back against the far wall. She tightens her own tourniquet, a strip of cotton twisted with a pen, the kind of thing she has tied on training mannequins in a course she dropped out of, and she puts her left hand flat on the concrete, palm up, and she takes the kitchen knife in her right. And she does not look at her hand while she does it. She looks at the wall. She uses 2 strokes. The first goes down on the joint. The second separates it. She does not cry out. Her breath does not change. Her gaze does not move from the wall. Asahi has never seen anyone do anything quite like it. He has not yet learned what being a year past the death of your sister in a hospital corridor that has a tier 3 walking up it looks like. She wraps it, she ties it off, she picks up an antibiotic from the broken display case, and another, and a third. She stands, she turns to face them. The number above her head has not moved. Asahi feels something arrive without naming itself. A small pressure behind his eyes. A faint widening at the edges of his hearing. He does not know yet what to call it. He knows only that he can feel something on the other side of the basement wall, 2 streets away. 3 streets, 10. Small ripples of presence, slow and aimless, and that he does not need to walk over and look to know they are there. He helps Yuna up the stairs. She walks on her own mostly. The 2 strokes she made on the concrete have, in 5 minutes, changed the way she carries her left arm. High, away from the body, careful. Her face has not changed. She does not, on the way up, ask either of them if they are all right. She does not, on the way up, ask herself the question either. They sleep that night in the side hall of a small Yotsuya temple. Yuna lies down with her bandaged hand lifted and explains the bite mechanic, the way she would explain it to a first year. Calmly, in clauses, with her eyes closed. 2-stage infection. First stage is the fever. Second stage is unconsciousness, which lasts between 4 and 7 minutes and produces the thing that will, when it gets up, no longer be the patient. Stop it at stage 1 and you keep your patient. Catch the bite within 90 seconds and amputation works on a finger or a foot. Past 5 minutes, nothing works. She has cut off her finger inside of 90 seconds. Her father, she does not say, did not. When she opens her eyes, she sees Asahi looking at her, or at the air a little above her head. She says, quote 21, quote 22, quote 23, quote 24. She looks at him a long time. Then she says, quote 25, quote, he tells her about Ren, about the candle, about the words that do not work. He tells her about the basement and the pressure behind his eyes, and the things he can feel on the other side of the wall. She listens. Then she stands up and tells him to lie, out loud, about anything. He lies. He says he likes the temple's roof tiles. He says he is left-handed. He says he is not afraid right now. The number above her head does not move. He says, after a moment, that he is glad they found her, and the number above her head goes up by 2. Yuna sits down very slowly. It moves on truth, she says. Yes. It moves on the size of the truth. I think so. This is the worst thing I've ever heard. It is late afternoon when they take the back routes to the Yamanote tunnel, and it is in the tunnel, in the half-dark, that Asahi feels the new pressure in a specific direction, and he turns, and he sees him. The figure is standing 50 meters away, perfectly still, in a pale gray laboratory coat that is too clean for any of this. His hair is pure silver and falls past his shoulders. His face is intact. His eyes, what Asahi can see of them at this distance, are pale and silver white with no visible pupils. He is not walking, he is not slouching. He is standing the way people stand who are listening for one specific sound. He does not move when Asahi sees him. He does not move when Yuna sees him. He does not move when Ren, slower than the other 2, finally also sees him and says, very quietly, "We should go." They go. Asahi looks back twice. The figure is still standing, still in the same place, still not moving. The second time is the first. The number above his head, Asahi tries to read it instinctively, is not there. There is nothing above his head at all. They cut around the long way to avoid the Yamanote tunnel for the rest of the evening, and on the back route through a Shinjuku underpass, they pass a man sitting cross-legged on a folded mat at the entrance, eating cold rice from a wooden bowl, in the dark gray weathered robe of a wandering monk. He has a small black top knot and a tarnished bronze prayer bell at his hip, and a sheathed broken katana laid neatly on the mat beside him. He nods to Asahi, specifically, not to the others. Asahi nods back. He does not know what else to do. The 4 of them, 3 living, 1 watching, pass each other in silence. The man does not speak. That night, finally, they reach the abandoned public school 4 blocks from the temple, and they pick 3 classrooms, and they push the desks against the doors, and they sit in Yuna's classroom, the one with the chalkboard, and Yuna writes everything down. The 2 tiers she has seen, the bite stage rules, the numbers Asahi has read so far. Below it, she writes in a steady hand, quote 32. Rin writes under that, quote 33, and draws a smiley face that takes him 3 tries because his cut hand is shaking. Asahi finds her later in the empty dispensary at the end of the hall. She is examining her own bandage in the dim light. She does not look up when he comes in. He sits on the steel cabinet across from her. After a long moment, she says without looking up that her younger sister was at the hospital on day 1. She says she watched her sister stop being her sister from the 3rd floor of the same hospital. She says she has spent 11 days knowing she should have walked down to the 2nd floor that morning. She does not, she says, intend to do anything with that knowledge. She says she just needs to say it out loud once. She says her sister was 15. 14. She says her sister had been sick for 3 weeks before and they had thought it was a normal flu, and Yuna had been the one to drive her to the hospital on day -1, the day before any of this. Yuna had been on the 3rd floor when the 3rd floor heard what was happening on the 2nd. She had run for the stairwell. She had been told by a nurse who was already running to go up, not down. She had gone up. She had heard her sister 3 minutes later on the stairwell intercom. She had not gone down. She had stayed at the 3rd floor window and watched the parking lot fill, slowly, with people who were no longer the patients they had been an hour ago. She had stayed there for 5 hours. She does not remember the 5 hours. She remembers what she did not do. He says he is sorry. He means it. The number above her head ticks up by 1. Asahi does not sleep that night. At 3 in the morning, he walks the empty halls of the school with the candle. There is a window at the end of the 3rd floor corridor that faces the courtyard, and the courtyard has a single ornamental cherry tree, and the cherry tree is still doing what cherry trees do. In the courtyard, 3 drifters are standing in the cold, not moving, not looking at anything. Petals are falling on them. He watches the petals settle. He watches the drifters not respond. He watches it for a long time. He is at the window when the chant starts. Faint. East of them, 2 kilometers, 3. Yuna comes up the stairs behind him without making sound. After a minute, Ren joins. The 3 of them stand at the window, listening. Yuna says, "The number above her head does not move." Asahi did not lie. He doesn't know what it is. He knows what it is. There is a difference, and the gauge knows the difference. Later, alone in this classroom, Asahi puts his hand flat on the chalkboard. He closes his eyes. He lets the pressure behind them open out, that thing he has not yet named, and he feels them. 6, then 12, then 20, then 30. They are all moving. They are not moving randomly. They are moving toward the same point. He sits in the dark on the classroom floor with his hand on the cold board, with 30 small pressures pulling toward the same place inside his skull, and he does not move. Outside, the wind is picked up. The cherry petals are coming off the tree in the courtyard in small drifts now, 2 and 3 at a time, settling on the dead and on the gravel and on the iron of the school's fence. Asahi can hear them landing because the city is quiet enough. The pressure behind his eyes is steady. He keeps his hand on the board. He does not, until the candle is short, take it away. The candle goes out. Day 18. The first time the 4 of them go down into Shinjuku Station is the morning the wind shifts. The blossoms have been falling from the same trees for 6 days now, and there are fewer of them on the branches and more of them in the gutters. And the city smells today like petals and copper. The east entrance to the station is barricaded with overturned vending machines. The west entrance is covered in painted kanji, in white spray paints bigger than a man's head. They go in through the south side where a freight grate has been pried open on a hinge. The underground city begins 8 steps in. Improvised lanterns string the corridor, wick torches in glass jars. Sodium bulbs run from a generator that hums 2 floors down. There is a hand-painted board at the first junction with arrows. Water, left. Power, straight. Trade, right and down. Asahi has been in Shinjuku Station hundreds of times in his life. He has never been in this Shinjuku Station. The 4 of them, the 3 plus the bicycle, which they will leave at the cloakroom because there is no use for a bicycle down here, start to walk. The corridors smell of generator exhaust and incense and damp concrete. There are voices, low. There are children somewhere and the absence of children somewhere else. There is a man in a clean shirt selling bottled water from a folding table who looks at them once and looks past them again. There is, on the wall above his table, a hand-painted notice in 3 languages, of which Asahi can read the Japanese. No fighting after dark. No fires past the 2nd junction. The watch is at the 3rd junction. The watch is fed. Their 2nd day under is the day they hear about the locked room. A woman selling water at the trade junction tells them there is a stock room 4 streets up in Akihabara that has been sealed from the inside for 11 days. She knows because she has been past it twice and has heard the small mechanical sounds inside. Whoever is in there has a working power source. Whoever is in there has not opened the door. They go and look. The stock room is in the back of an electronics store with a rolled down shutter. There is a steel door behind the shutter. The steel door has a deadbolt that has been jammed. On the inside, with with a screwdriver. Yuna knocks. There is silence. There is silence for so long that Ren is reaching for the screwdriver to start prying when there is a small click on the other side of the door, and the bolt slides back, and the door opens 5 centimeters, and a single eye looks out. The eye is dark, and the eye is afraid. Above it, 8 centimeters above the head it belongs to, is a number. The number reads 12. Asahi steps back from the door. He says, gently, the way you talk to a small animal, "I won't hurt you." "We won't hurt you. We have water." The door opens. The eye comes with a face. The face comes with an 18-year-old girl with a chin-length black bob, with oversized headphones around her neck, with a stylus held the way a person holds a knife. She has not spoken in 11 days because, as she will tell them later by typing on a tablet, there has been no one left for her to speak to. The room behind her is small and clean and ordered. There are 6 cans of energy drinks stacked along one wall, in 2 careful columns of 3, and a cot, and a portable stove, and a low workbench with 3 radios in various states of disassembly, and a tablet on a homemade charging pad, and on the wall above the cot, a pinned-up picture of a small dog. The dog is brown and white. The dog is not in the room. Asahi does not, even silently, ask about the dog. Yuna takes her hand. The number above her head changes. 12, 14, 16, 18. Small upward ticks in the time it takes to lead her out of the room. Yuna looks at Asahi. Asahi looks at the number. Yuna says, quote 0, quote 1, quote 2. Hina Ono types her name on her tablet in 2 careful strokes. She does not speak. She tucks herself behind Yuna for 2 days and answers no questions and trusts no one. And on the 3rd day, she fixes the radio Ren has been carrying since day 4, which has not worked since day 4, and which is, now, suddenly receiving, empty static, but receiving. Hina raises her eyebrow at the radio. The number above her head goes up to 22. Day 22. They're coming back from the water junction with 3 plastic jugs, when a woman with a pistol steps out from behind the second pillar of the access tunnel. She is tall. She is in a black tactical vest. She has blonde hair tied in a tight ponytail and a thin scar that crosses the bridge of her nose. There are 3 men with her. She tells them, calmly, that she would like the water and the bag, and that she would prefer they did not make this difficult. The pistol is steady. Asahi reads her gauge. It is at 8. She has, by his understanding of the rules, less than a day. The infection has not touched her. There is no bite, no fever. But the number is at 8, and the number does not lie, and the number is going down, not up. He says, very quietly, "You don't want this." The pistol does not move. She tilts her head. She says, "What? Your gauge is at 8. You have hours." She does not know what a gauge is. Her 3 men behind her do. The man on her left is laughing before she has finished turning her head. He has been laughing, Asahi notices, since before Asahi spoke. He has been waiting for a reason. The man on the right has already raised his weapon. There is no time to plan. There is barely time to think. Asahi puts his hand out at the man on the right, and the air between them moves. A single soft shockwave that he has, until now, only ever felt as pressure behind his eyes. The man goes back into the wall and stays there. The other 2 scatter into the tunnel. The woman with the blonde ponytail is left standing alone, with her pistol pointed at no one, with 8 floating in pale cyan above her head, and Asahi looks at her and tells her, again, very quietly, "You don't want this." She lowers the gun. She does not look at him for a long time. Her name is Saori Kanzaki. She is 24. She used to be an officer in the 2nd Shinjuku district until, she says, until the day my partner stopped being my partner. She does not say more. She asks, at the school, to be cuffed to a radiator until she is sure of herself. They cuff her to a radiator. She does not eat for a day. The number above her head is at 14 by the 2nd morning. Hina watches her from across the room. Hina does not approach. Hina does not type. But by the 3rd morning, Hina is sitting on the floor by the radiator, fixing the back of her tablet, while Saori watches her work in silence. Neither of them says anything. The number behind Saori's head ticks up by 1. On the 4th morning, Hina puts a small soldering iron in Saori's hand, without explanation. Saori looks at it. Hina turns the radio on the floor between them 90 degrees, so the open back faces Saori. Hina points at the loose terminal. Saori, who has not held a soldering iron since she was 12, and her father, who is also dead, taught her on a kitchen table in Setagaya, holds the iron over the the joint and does not, miraculously, burn anyone. The number above her head ticks up by 2. The world is teaching them, in small movements, what the gauge is for. Ren is on the roof, looking out across Yotsuya, and Ren says, without turning, quote 3 quote, "There is a person in a yellow jacket on the next building over. The person is running. The person is running because 2 roofs back, there is a man with a rifle, and the rifle is firing. The person in the yellow jacket clears the gap between 2 buildings without slowing down, which is a feat that Asahi did not, until this moment, believe a body could do. She lands on Asahi's roof. She rolls. She comes up breathing very fast. She has black hair in a low ponytail with 2 prominent white bleached strands at the front, brown eyes, a small bleeding scratch on her right jaw. She looks at the 4 of them. She says, "You're the group with the boy who can read numbers." Asahi, who has not, until this moment, considered that he might be a rumor, says, "Yes." She says, "Then we need to talk about Daisuke." She is not breathing hard now. The scratch on her jaw has stopped bleeding. The man with the rifle, 2 roofs back, has, Asahi notes, given up. The rifle is no longer firing. Aki has crossed 9 roofs to be on this one. She explains a few minutes later, been crossing 9 roofs a day for the past week, looking for the group with the boy who reads numbers, and she has now found them. She sits down cross-legged on the gravel, like a person who has been running a long time and has remembered how to stop. Aki Nishimura is 20. She was a recruiter until a week ago for what Daisuke calls the Inner Garden, Nyan, the Imperial Palace bunker. She brought in 23 people, the first 10 she liked. The 11th was a 13-year-old boy with a gauge of 7, and Daisuke kept him for 1 day, and the boy was not at breakfast on the day after that, and the workers' armbands at the bunker were color-coded by gauge value, and Aki could not pretend, after the 11th, that she did not know. She does not cry while she tells them this. She joins. The number above her head reads 61. There are 6 of them now. Asahi, Ren, Yuna, Hina, Saori, Aki. Saori is no longer cuffed to the radiator. Hina has built a small portable lantern that runs on a salvaged car battery. Ren has begun keeping a tally on the chalkboard. Names, gauges, days. The total of their gauges, when Asahi adds them in his head one morning, is 220. Something settles into him on that morning. The pressure he has been carrying since day 14, that growing, formless pressure, focuses. The shockwave he sent into the man with the gun on day 22 was a thing he did once and could not then do again. Now, this morning, on the rooftop, when he puts his hand out into the empty air, the air responds. The shockwave comes when he calls it. It is suddenly a tool. He does not announce this. He files it. Aki has a route to the underground market. She draws it on the chalkboard. Yuna asks what the toll is. Aki says, teeth. Yuna stares at her. Aki says, drifter teeth. Their currency. Don't ask. Ren laughs once, a short, flat laugh, and says he has been picking up drifter teeth since day 6 because he is a courier and he picks up everything. He has them in a small canvas bag in his courier satchel. He pours them out. There are 43. Ren and Asahi go to the market. The 2 of them know more. Aki's instructions. The market is in a tunnel 2 levels below Shinjuku proper, and to enter you walk a corridor with a single brass scale at the end, weighted by a woman who is 28 years old, who has long black dreadlocks tied back, who wears a patchwork cloak made of 100 different fabrics, who has a necklace of small white beads at her throat. The beads, on closer look, are teeth. She is called Karasu. Her real name is Suru Sato. She does not use it. She weighs Ren's offering on her scale, smiles, and waves them through. She knows them. She knows about the rumor of the boy who reads numbers. She knows Aki defected from Nyan. She knows about the chant that has been crossing Tokyo east to west for the past 9 days, and she has been mapping it. She unrolls a hand-drawn map of Tokyo on a folding crate. She points. Underscore underscore, quote underscore 7 underscore underscore. The Convergence is a single building in Roppongi, a glass and steel research building, the lab. Asahi, who has not until this moment had a hypothesis about where the apocalypse is going, has one now. Karasu watches him do the math. She does not tell him he is right. She does not need to. Karasu serves them tea, which is the part of the underground market that none of them have expected. Real tea. Hot. From a small clay pot in a recess of her stall. She sits across from them on an upturned plastic crate and watches them drink. She does not drink any. She tells them in the same flat tone she has used for the map, she has not seen her sister in 12 days. She does not expect to. She is telling them this so they understand the shape of the thing she is offering them, and the shape of the thing she is asking in return, which is that if any of them sees her sister alive, they tell her. They leave the market the way they came in. They do not make it back to the surface. The ambush is in the upper corridor, at the second junction, in the section that is half collapsed and dim. The man stepping out from behind the pillar is wearing a fitted black combat jacket, with a black geometric tattoo crawling up the right side of his neck. He has a permanent half smile. He has a combat knife on his left hip. He has, Asahi sees the moment he steps into the lantern light, a gauge above his head that reads nothing, the same as Asahi's. He looks at Asahi. He says, "So you're the one." Asahi does not know yet what an illegal install of the system looks like. What he sees in this dim corridor at this moment is a man whose gauge does not register and whose presence registers wrongly. The pressure behind Asahi's eyes, which has for 2 weeks been getting easier to read, getting more specific, clouds when Kaito walks into the lantern's light. Kaito is not, by any reading Asahi has, a person. Kaito is something the system has tagged and chosen to ignore. Asahi has not, until this moment, understood that the system was capable of choosing. He moves before they can answer. The 2 guards Karasu has sent up with them, 2 men Asahi has known by name for 30 minutes, are dead before either of them has drawn. The smile on the man's face does not change. The man's name is Kaito Mori. He works for Daisuke. He has, somehow, an illegal install of the system, and he has come for them. Ren is between Asahi and Kaito. Ren raises his hands. Kaito does not kill Ren. What specifically is or is not a kindness in the way Kaito chooses to do things? Asahi does not have time to ask. Kaito knocks Ren unconscious with the pommel of the knife in one short stroke and lifts him over the shoulder and turns to Asahi and says, "Nyan, tomorrow." Asahi raises his hand. He calls the shockwave. It does not come. Kaito tilts his head a quarter inch, and the shockwave fizzles out before it reaches him. Kaito does not stop smiling. Kaito walks out of the corridor. Asahi stands alone in the dim. He has, in his hand, the same air he has been able to push since this morning. It does not move. The system does not always work against the right opponent. He has, until now, not understood that this could be true. He goes back to the school. He sits down in front of the chalkboard where Yuna's notes still are, and he tells them. Hina puts her hand over her mouth. Aki sits down. Yuna does not speak. Sayori, in her chair against the wall, stares at the floor for a long time. Then she says, "Asahi." "What?" "I was sent by Daisuke. I was supposed to mark you. 3 weeks ago." The room is quiet. "The gauge thing," she says. "He has it too. Some of his people have it. I was set up to find you. I was supposed to give you to Kaito 2 days ago." "I didn't. I'm telling you because I'm telling you." The number above her head climbs as she speaks. 14, 16, 20, 22. She tells them what Daisuke promised. A bunk in the inner garden. A red armband, which she did not at the time know meant anything. Her partner's body. Her partner's body, which had, on day 2, been carried out of a Shinjuku district station by people who had not asked her permission and had not given it back. She had been told was waiting for her at Nyan, in cold storage, intact. She had been promised, specifically, that she would be allowed to bury her partner herself, in the inner garden, with the right she would have wanted. Daisuke had said this to her on day 6. She had been working for him since day 7. She had not been allowed inside the cold storage. She had not, in 20 days, seen the body. Aki is on her feet before Sayori has finished. Yuna has her hand on the table. Hina, on the chalkboard, is writing something Asahi cannot see. Saori has not moved. Saori has not, at any point, lifted her eyes. Asahi looks around the room. The numbers in this room, he can see all of them at once, even though he is not trying, are Yuna 51, Hina 47, Aki 64, Saori 22. The empty space above his own head where there is no number. And somewhere in a stone cell under the Imperial Garden, Ren. He says, "She's helping us get him back." Aki does not speak. Aki walks out of the room. The door closes behind her. The number above Saori's head goes up by 16 in the next 30 seconds. The plan is Aki's when she comes back 2 hours later, eyes swollen, calm. The infiltration is at night through the Imperial Garden moat. Saori knows the codes. They wade in through cold black water in dry suits Hina has stitched from the curtains of an abandoned hotel. They surface inside the eastern wall. They lie flat on a path of cherry petals soaked into into the gravel. The bunker is awake. There are workers in long lines shuffling between gates. They wear armbands. The armbands are color-coded. Asahi sees red, yellow, gray. And the colors, he understands without anyone telling him, correspond to gauge brackets. The red ones are the ones who do not come back to breakfast. Hina photographs everything she can. There is a courtyard the workers cross between gates. The courtyard has in its center a single ornamental cherry tree, which is the only cherry tree at Nyan that has been pruned this season. The petals are falling on the workers as they pass. The workers do not look at the petals. The workers do not look at each other. There is, at the eastern gate, a board with a list of names in 2 columns. Asahi sees the columns. Asahi does not, in the time they have, count them. He files the image. A speaker, somewhere on the grounds, is playing a recorded announcement. A man's voice, calm, civil, with the cadence of a man reading from a prepared text. He calls his bunker the inner garden. He calls his workers citizens. He uses twice a word that Asahi does not know, and that Sayori, when Asahi looks at her, has gone very still hearing. The renewal, the voice says. We will be ready for the renewal. Sayori does not look at Asahi. Sayori's gauge ticks down by 3. They find Ren in a stone holding cell on the lower level of the broadcast tower. He is alone. He has been beaten. His left eye is swollen. His courier jacket is half off. He is sitting against the back wall with his knees up. His gauge reads 33. He sees them. He smiles. The smile is genuine and small, and mostly with the unbloodied side of his mouth. And he says, as if they have come to pick him up at the corner store, "Tell me you brought ramen." Yuna is at the cell door with the lockpicks. Asahi is at the bars. Saori is watching the corridor. The corridor is empty for 2 seconds. Then Kaito is in it. Kaito is alone. Kaito is smiling. Kaito has the combat knife in his right hand, held loosely, the way a man holds a pen. Asahi calls the shockwave. Kaito redirects it without looking, and the wave goes into the wall, and Kaito does not slow down. It happens fast and slow at the same time. Kaito comes through the cell door. Yuna has the lock open by then. Ren is on his feet. Asahi sees Ren move, not toward Kaito, not away, but between, and Asahi understands in the last second what Ren is doing. He cannot stop it. It happens in less than 4 seconds. Asahi cannot put together what specifically he saw between Ren stepping forward and Ren going to one knee. He sees the number above Ren's head changing. 33, 21, 9. He sees Ren's mouth shape on the second to last word. He does not register which word. He does not know whether Ren had time to look at him before the glyph fragmented. The number above Ren's head reads 33 when the knife goes in. It reads 21 when Ren goes to one knee. It reads 9 when Ren looks up at Asahi and tries to say something and does not have the breath. It reads 0 when the glyph fragments, the way the system handles its own grief, and is gone. Asahi is screaming. Yuna is dragging him backward. Sayori is somehow between him and Kaito. Aki, Hina, Karasu, somewhere on the other side of the bunker, doing their part of the plan that is no longer the plan. Kaito is laughing, gently, the way he has been laughing since before Asahi spoke 3 weeks ago in the access tunnel. He does not pursue. He does not need to. They get out. Asahi does not remember how. The next clear moment is the school and the chalkboard and Yuna's notes and Ren's quote 8 in chalk under it. Asahi sits on Ren's cot. He does not cry. He sits. The pressure behind his eyes has changed. There is more of it. There is a new shape to it. The total of the gauges in the room downstairs, when he reaches for it, is past 450. The grief has done something. The shared loss of one specific person has done something. He has, without doing anything to earn it, a new tool. And he has it because Ren is dead. And he understands without having to be told that this is not the way the system was supposed to work. And that the system, perhaps, does not care. He puts his hand on the cot. Outside the window, the cherry blossoms are still falling. There are fewer of them than there were 2 weeks ago. There will be fewer of them tomorrow. There is, somewhere in the city, a clock he cannot see, and the clock is running. Day 35. The pause after Ren's death lasts 12 days. Saori drinks. Aki paces. Hina types one question on her tablet, "Where now?" and shows it to Asahi at the window every morning, and every morning Asahi has no answer. Yuna sets a plate of canned beans in front of him on the 7th day. He does not eat. She does not push. She sits across from him instead and eats hers and does not speak. The cold beans do their slow work. He picks up the spoon. The chalkboard still has day 15. We're still here in Ren's handwriting, with the small smiley face he could not get right. No one has erased it. No one will. Aki keeps moving. She paces the school's halls in patterns that begin to look mathematical from a distance. On the 7th day, Hina starts following her with the tablet, recording the patterns, mapping them on a grid for reasons no one asks about. By the 10th day, Aki and Hina have a route together that go through every classroom on every floor in 17 minutes. And that does not include any of the rooms where any of them slept on day 15. Iori is not yet with them. Saori does not speak to anyone for 9 of the 12 days. On the 10th day, she speaks to Hina briefly about a soldering iron. She does not speak to anyone else. He comes back on day 36. Asahi is on the school's front steps in the late afternoon with the candle lit even though there is sun, when a man in a weathered gray monk's robe walks up the long block from the south, with a wooden bowl in one hand and a tarnished bronze prayer bell at his hip. The man sits down on the broken playground bench across from the steps. He does not introduce himself. He puts the bowl down. He looks at Asahi. Asahi recognizes him. The underpass. Day 15. The nod. The man, when he speaks, has a cadence that does not match his age. He is 35 perhaps, but his sentences come out the way a much older man would speak, slowly, with the small, considered pauses of someone who has a great deal of time. He says, "I have been watching since you came down through the tunnel. I have been watching since you cut off her finger. I know what you are reading." Asahi, who has not in 20 days met a stranger who knew anything about the gauge without being told, does not answer immediately. The man waits. Yuna comes out onto the steps, sees the man, sits down on the step above Asahi without speaking, and waits with him. The man says finally, "My name is Hosho. There is someone you need to meet. I am not going to tell you why. You will not believe me if I do. Aki, Saori, Hina, come out." Hosho does not look surprised at any of them. He does not look surprised at the empty space above Asahi's head. He looks, now that Asahi can see his face properly in the candle's light, tired in the specific way of someone who has been keeping a secret too long. He says, "Mount Takao, the first shrine, the path past the second torii. Tomorrow morning, there is a woman waiting for you. Her name is Iori. You will know her when you see her." Hosho does not, in this conversation, ask anything of them. He does not ask if they are well. He does not ask if they can walk to Mount Takao tomorrow. He does not ask why they have not erased the chalkboard. The questions he does not ask are, by their absence, precise. He has been watching, he has said, since the underpass. Asahi understands now, in the way the candle is moving, that this man has been watching for very specific things, and that today is the first day he has decided that what he has seen is enough. He picks up his bowl, he stands, he walks back the way he came, southward, into the falling light, and the prayer bell at his hip rings once. The forest above Tokyo is still the forest. The blossoms have not made it up here. The cedars are doing what cedars do. They are old and dark and unmoved. The 5 of them, Asahi, Yuna, Hina, Saori, Aki, climb the wooden steps from the trailhead in silence, and the wooden torii at the trailhead is intact, and the shrine bell is intact, and a wind moves through the canopy that has nothing to do with anything happening below. They climb in single file. Hina is third. Hina has not been on a hill steeper than a station overpass since she was 11. Hina does not, on the way up, ask anyone to slow down. Yuna is at the back with Hosho. Saori is second. Aki is first. The path is wide. The cedars are cold. There is, somewhere above the canopy, a hawk, and the hawk is doing what hawks do in a forest where there is, suddenly, a great deal more for hawks to eat than there used to be. She is waiting at the second torii. She is 26 years old, tall, slender, a single ash gray braid down her back. She is wearing a long, modest, off-white linen dress with copper crosses embroidered at the hem. A small copper cross hangs at her throat. Her eyes are pale blue-gray, calm, and they go past Asahi when he comes around the turn in the path, past him to the figure of Hosho, who has come up the path 20 paces behind them. She nods to Hosho once. Then she looks at Asahi. Above her head, 89, the highest number Asahi has read in 23 days. She does not speak. She turns. She begins to walk, slowly, past the second torii, up the path toward the cult compound. The compound is a clearing. There is a wooden longhouse, a small pond, 3 smaller shrines, and a long table in the open air, set for the evening meal. The members of the compound are eating. They are quiet. They are calm. There is no fear in this place. There is also no one under 20. Hina notices it. Hina types it on her tablet, holds it up. Where are the kids? Iori sees the tablet. Iori does not answer. Iori shows them to a small side room with a bed and bowls and water and tells them in the same calm, even voice she will use until the end of the day, "You are safe here tonight. We will speak in the morning." She closes the door. Yuna sits on the bed. Yuna says, very quietly, "We are not safe here." In the morning, Iori takes Asahi alone to the cliffside path that runs east from the compound. The cliff falls 120 meters to the woods below. The mist sits in the trees. There is no wind. She tells him in the same calm voice, "My father has been counting. The gauge of every person who comes to this compound is read on arrival. Anyone below 30 is given the rite of purification at dawn on this cliff, the dawn offering. I have watched 17 of them. I have not stopped any of them. I have not been able to." She is not crying. Her hands are clasped softly in front of her. She says, "On day 0, the security on the Roppongi laboratory was on a single key card. The key card was in my father's possession. He was an investor. He brought me with him to see the research on the morning of the leak because he was proud. When I saw what was inside, it was very simple. I thought, they should not have this. I took the card. I opened the door. I walked out of the building." She does not finish the line. She does not have to. She says, a moment later, "I remember what the keycard sounded like. I remember it more clearly than I remember the lab itself." The reader gives a very specific tone. 2 notes. The lower one for unlock, the higher one for confirm. 2 notes and a small green light and a lock. I have heard those 2 notes in my sleep for 12 days. They are the only thing I have heard in my sleep in 12 days. I have not been to sleep properly in 12 days for that reason. She says, after a long moment, "I do not know if it would have leaked anyway. I do not know if the sealed door would have held." I have spent 12 days asking myself this question. I have an answer that I prefer. I do not believe my answer. The number above her head has not moved. 89, steady. Asahi understands with a small private clarity what shame looks like as a stable state. It looks like a woman who has lived with the truth for 12 days and who has decided not to lie to herself about it. She walks down the mountain with them in the afternoon. Her father comes out of the longhouse and watches her go. He does not call after her. He does not move. He stands in the doorway of the longhouse with his hand on the frame, and he watches his daughter walk out of his life, and he does not speak. Iori does not look back. The number above her head at the bottom of the trail is still at 89. That night, in a side room of the Yotsuya school, with the candle and the chalkboard, Hosho rolls back the left sleeve of his robe. There is a faded tattoo on his inner forearm, a single kanji, source. He says, "I worked with Jin for 9 years. I left the project when I understood what we were building." He looks at Asahi. He says, "The gauge is not a tool. It is a filter. The Roppongi laboratory was not researching memory preservation. The elixir was not designed to extend life. The elixir was designed, both halves of it, to do exactly what it has done. The infection is one half. The perception of the gauge is the other. They were always meant to be released together into a population under apocalyptic pressure to find out." He stops. He chooses his next words. To find out, in his words, which humans, under these conditions, preserve the baseline social capacity that civilization is built on. To identify them, to preserve them, to clear the rest. The room is silent. Hosho is not raising his voice. He has, in the entire conversation, not raised his voice once. He is sitting on the floor of the side room, with his hands loose in his lap, with the candle between them on the floor, and he is delivering, as if it were a weather report, the news that the city of Tokyo has been, for 46 days, the contained portion of a controlled experiment, and that the contained portion has been, for 46 days, dying. He pauses. He looks at his hands. He says, "I am sorry I did not tell you sooner. I had no proof. You would not until now have heard me." He says, "Tokyo is the experiment. We were always the test. The threshold for preservation is 50 per carrier." The system runs its filter at the end of the test cycle, on day 47 of year 0. The filter is called reset. I have been waiting 12 days to be able to tell anyone this because no one would have believed me until now. He looks up. He concentrates on a point in the air above the chalkboard. He says, "He gave me origin class permissions when I was his partner. He has not revoked them. I have had a clock in my head for 12 days. A timer appears for the first time in the air above the chalkboard. Cyan numerals, thin geometric typeface, the same typeface as the gauge. The numerals read 48 hours, no minutes, no seconds. They tick down by 1 second. 47, 59, 59, 47, 59, 58. Yuna sits down on the floor. Hina is the first one to type. She types, "What's at the lab?" Hosho says, "The transmitter that triggers the reset." Aki says, "And what stops it?" Hosho says, "A counter broadcast on the same channel, run from the only broadcast tower in Tokyo with the matching signature. Daisuke's tower, in Nyan. The room is silent for a long time. It is Karasu who comes to them the next morning before they can come to her. She has a hand-drawn map of Nyan, refined since the night Ren was taken. She has, she says, a way in. She has people willing to die at the gate. She is aware of the math. She has done the math. The plan by the end of that day is on the chalkboard. Aki, Hina, and Karasu, the eastern moat. A riot. Loud, sustained, drawing every guard to the perimeter. Saori, Yuna, and Iori, the broadcast tower stairs. Secure them. Hold them. Asahi alone, top floor. The override. One line of system protocol, rewritten. A tool he has, theoretically, if his group's gauge sum crosses 1500. Their current sum is 930. They will need every gauge he can lift on the way in. Iori's 89 is most of why this plan can exist at all. Iori writes her father's known approach to the cliffside path on a corner of the chalkboard, in case any of them need it later. Hina taps the board twice, asking. Iori shakes her head. No, not now. After. After is a word that is suddenly on the chalkboard. None of them, until this evening, has used it. Aki, who has not slept properly since day 22, sits on the floor with her back against the wall and watches the chalkboard for an hour. She does not write anything. She memorizes it. They sleep, what they can. The eastern moat distraction goes off at 3 in the morning on what is, by the timer in Asahi's head, hour 6 of the last 48. Karasu, Aki, and Hina cause a riot at the eastern gate. Karasu has 30 market people with her. They throw bottles. They sing. They pry open a shipping container with a sledgehammer and let 3 live drifters out into the gate's plaza, which is a thing Aki specifically wanted not to be the plan, and which is the plan anyway. The drifters do their work. The guards respond. Hina is at the gate's signal repeater, on her stomach, with the back of the panel off and her tablet plugged into the inner port. Her fingers move very fast. In the broadcast tower, Daisuke Hagiwara is on the observation deck in a long dark gray overcoat, watching the gate with binoculars. He is 45 years old. He is steel-haired, silver-bearded. He has, under his coat, the chrysanthemum armband of his own private order. He does not look surprised. He says into a radio, "Hold the public broadcast. Begin shutdown sequence." The aide beside him says, "Sir, that's 3 hours early." Daisuke says, "I am aware." He puts the binoculars down. He looks west toward the broadcast tower stairs where, somewhere on the floor below, his guards are beginning to encounter Saori and Yuna and Iori. He does not seem afraid. He smiles, a small, thin smile, and he says to the aide, "The renewal is what it is. We are early." The riot at the gate becomes the wave at the gate. Daisuke's reinforcement is the choir. They have been holding the choir inside the bunker, a fact none of them have known, and a fact that explains many things in retrospect. The chant, when it starts, is loud. The choir comes through the inner gate in formation, 6 abreast, faces wrapped, and the people of the riot, Karasu's people, cannot hold. Karasu is at the gate's hinge. She has a steel pry bar. She knocks the pin. The gate falls toward the choir. Aki and Hina are running the other way, and Aki is shouting Karasu's name without stopping, and Hina is dragging her hand, and Karasu is at the falling gate, and Karasu is between the falling gate and the choir, and Karasu is doing what she always said she would do when the day came when it was the hinge or the people, and the hinge is hers. The number above her head is at 67 when she puts her shoulder under the falling gate. It is at 31 when the choir reaches her. It is at 0 when the gate goes down on top of her and the choir. The glyph fragments, the pixel decay. It is gone. There is, in the second between the gate going down and the choir going under it, one frame in which Karasu is upright with the pry bar still in her hand, with her head turned over her shoulder, looking back at Aki and Hina running away. She is not smiling. She is not, by any reading Asahi has from the broadcast tower stairs, afraid. She is checking. She is making sure they are running. The frame ends. Aki does not scream. Aki does not stop running. Hina is crying without sound. The riot has done its job. The gate is closed. They run. Saori, Yuna, and Iori are halfway up the broadcast tower stairs when the guard on the landing fires. He is firing at Asahi. Asahi is one flight above. Asahi is climbing fast. Saori is between them. She steps left. The shot takes her in the side, above the hip. She does not fall. She turns on the landing and shoots the guard once in the throat, and watches him go down, and then sits down slowly with her back against the railing. Yuna is on her in 3 seconds. The bandage, the tourniquet at the wrong angle, the right angle held. Yuna's hands move the way they moved on day 14 in the pharmacy basement when it was her own finger. Her face has not changed. Iori beside her is holding Saori's hand. The number above Saori's head climbs as Yuna works. 41, 50, 59, 65. The gauge moves on truth and on trust, and on the specific weight of being saved by people who have no reason to save you and who do anyway. Saori, with her back against the railing, smiles. It is the only smile they have seen from her. It is at 72 when Yuna ties the bandage off and stands. The top floor of the broadcast tower is a single room, glass on 3 sides, the console at the center. The window facing west toward Tokyo Tower, which is still standing in the haze, which is, even now, holding its color against the gray. Asahi reaches it alone, with the timer in his head at 35 minutes. Shirogane is already there. He is standing at the console. He has his hand on the broadcast key. His silver hair is not moving. His pale, silver-white eyes are on Asahi the moment Asahi comes through the door, as if he has been listening for Asahi's footsteps for a long time. He turns. He speaks. It is the first time Asahi has heard his voice. The voice is calm and slightly off rhythm, the way someone speaks when they are pulling words from a place outside themselves. Hello, Asahi. He says, I was the first volunteer. I was 22 when I took the first dose. The compound was supposed to take only me. We did not know it could be airborne until the day it was airborne, and by then, I was the first one walking. I am still the first one walking. I am, in a sense, the only one in this city who is still the same person he was before any of this began, which is a strange thing to say given my appearance. He does not move from the console. He says, my father was general, the compound was his, the filter was his. I volunteered because I believed in the work. I believed on the day I took the first dose that finding the people who can hold the city together by being decent to each other was a thing worth doing, and that if it cost one life, it could cost mine. He looks at Asahi. He says, I have been wrong for 12 days. I have been wrong for 23 days. I have been wrong for the entire experiment. I am the only person in Tokyo who can read the truth of this, because I am the only person other than you whose gauge does not work. And you, Asahi, you, the system was not expecting. You, I have been looking for. I did not know what you would be. Now, I know. Shirogane says, I have walked this city, every street, every quarter since day 2. I have counted, since day 2, every gauge I have read. I do not remember any of the numbers. I remember the faces. I have cataloged. That is the right word for what I have done, and it is also the wrong word. 18,471 faces in this city, and there are, by my count, 492 left. The number is going down by between 6 and 12 a day. The number on day 47 was supposed to go down to 200. I am telling you this because you, Asahi, are the variable I cannot read. And I have been for 23 days the variable no one else can read, and we are speaking, for the first time, perhaps the only time, to the only other person in this city who has the question. Asahi does not raise his hand. Asahi does not call the shockwave. He looks at the man across the console. He says, "Did you choose this?" Shirogane is still for a long moment, the kind of stillness that has, in 23 days, made Asahi cold every time he has felt it from a distance, and that here, in this room, 3 meters away, is the stillness of a man considering a question for the first time. Shirogane says, eventually, "I chose the first dose. I did not choose the second. Asahi says, then move. Shirogane moves. He steps aside from the console. Asahi puts his hand on the console key. The override comes when he asks for it. The group sum, with Iori's 89 and Sayori's 72, and Hina's risen 41, and Yuna's 63, and Aki's 58, and Karasu's last gift of 30 in their memory, and Shirogane stepping aside in his own, the sum is 1503. He rewrites the threshold rule. It is not rewritten as 0. It is not rewritten as 50. It is rewritten as every carrier sees their own. The broadcast goes out across the city of Tokyo, on every channel that the broadcast tower can reach, and the cyan glyphs that have, until now, been visible only to system holders begin appearing above every head in the city, visible to every head they belong to. The reset clock does not stop. It pauses. It resets to 24 hours. The threshold cancels. The filter, for now, is suspended. Asahi does not understand in the moment what he has done. He understands only that the timer in his head, when he reaches for it, says 24 hours and is steady. He looks at Shirogane. Shirogane is sitting on the floor by the console, looking out the west window, looking at Tokyo Tower in the dawn light. He is, Asahi thinks, perhaps not his enemy. He is, perhaps, never going to leave this room. He is something else. The system did not have a word for him. Dawn is coming. In the courtyard below, Yuna, Iori, Sayori, Aki, Hina are looking up at the broadcast tower. Hosho is among them. He has come up the tower's outer stairs, slowly in the time of the broadcast. Sayori is leaning on Yuna. Iori is holding Hina's hand. Aki is sitting on the gravel. Across the city, every survivor wakes up to a number above their own head. A man in a half-collapsed apartment block who has been hiding for 32 days sees a 6. He sits down on the floor. He is alive. A woman in a Shinjuku tunnel sees a 44. She has a younger brother with her. The younger brother sees an 81. He laughs. He is the first thing in 20 days that has laughed in this tunnel. On a balcony in Kichijoji, a woman in her 60s sees a 91 above her own head and does not know what it means. She has not, in 35 days, lit her gas stove. She lights the gas stove. She makes rice. She sets one bowl out on the small kitchen table for her husband, who is not coming home, and she sits across from the empty bowl and she eats hers slowly. In a parking garage, 2 streets from the broadcast tower, a teenage boy sees a 14 above his own head, and he sits down on the concrete and he does not stand up. He has been a drifter sympathizer for 9 days. The system has been counting it. In a basement in Asakusa, a small dog, somehow alive, somehow fed, is curled at the feet of a man who has not, since day 1, told anyone he is a doctor. There is no number above the dog's head. There never was. The cherry blossoms are still falling. There are not many of them left on the trees. There will be fewer tomorrow. The grace period is ending. Asahi walks to the edge of the broadcast tower roof. He looks down at the courtyard. He looks at the 5 women he has in 3 weeks become responsible for. He looks at Hosho. He looks back briefly at Shirogane sitting on the floor by the console behind him. He looks at the timer in his own head, which reads 23 hours, 58 minutes, 14 seconds. He puts his hand on the railing. He looks up. Above his own head, where there has never been a number, where he has been the system's only blank page, where he has been, by Hosho's word, the variable the experiment could not weigh, there is, still, nothing. He almost smiles. The first sun crests the eastern wall. The light catches the white cherry blossom petals on the roof of the broadcast tower, and the petals catch the light back. And Tokyo, for one specific moment, in a way it has not done in 35 days, looks almost, briefly. If you made it to the end, thank you. If this story moved you, even for a moment, you did half the work. Asahi held up his end of his city. You held up yours of his story. Hit the like button if you want more of this. Every click tells the algorithm that quiet, slow, character-driven recaps still belong here, against the noise. Subscribe to the channel if you want to be there when Asahi sees what 24 hours costs him, when Sayori finally speaks her partner's name, when the next clock starts. And if you want to argue with me in the comments about whether Shirogane was redeemed, whether Iori's father deserves silence, whether Asahi should have killed Kaito, go! I read them. I'll be there. Take care of your gauge.